Oliver, should we talk about the PlayStation 5 version of Dying Light 2? Sorry, Dying Light the Beast. We can talk about Dying Light 2 if you want, but probably
yes,
not.
Dying Light 2. Dying Light 2 I covered on last-gen consoles back 3 years ago. So we could talk about Dying Light 2 if you wanted to.
Let's do it.
But I imagine we should talk about Dying Light the Beast, which I would agree with Alex there that it does look quite a lot better than Dying Light 2 with that very nice GI presentation. I'd say one thing that's really nice about Dying Light the Beast relative to Dying Light 2 is that it's set in these kind of forested areas that I think look quite beautiful with all the nice foliage and the really nice indirect diffuse GI response. And they just look very visually pleasing, and they have this rich look that I quite liked. At a distance, it's not quite as impressive. Like when you look into distance, it has that kind of shadowless look a little bit, at least on consoles, which kind of reminds me actually of Dying Light 1 on consoles. You know, the distant lack of shadows totally on consoles, and then on PC that was rectified to quite a large degree. There are some elements that you can tell like this is clearly a cross-generation game, like the various rock formations and things like that. They look a little bit chunky. They don't really have that kind of next-generation level of polygonal fidelity that you might expect. In terms of kind of the raw metrics, I thought image quality was quite good. On PS5, it counted to 1080p in performance mode, probably with some temporal upsampling there. And then in quality mode, it was a bit above 1440p internally, at least in the shots that I tested. Performance was very good as well, not as good as Alex's 150 FPS or whatever with his 10 millisecond stutters, but you know, it was 60 FPS locked in the content that I played and 30 FPS locked in the quality mode, as you might expect for a game like this. The downside, like PC, there's no particular signs of ray tracing. So the reflections are SSR with that kind of voxely fallback, like Alex mentioned. GI, again, looks very similar to PC, looks like that kind of voxel GI solution that Alex is hypothesizing here. The shadows are very high quality, but they look shadow map based to me. They don't seem like RT shadows in either mode. And there are some screen space shadows layered in as well. Like they use kind of all the typical bag of tricks for shadowing that last gen games often use. And the AO kind of looks like, you know, SSAO to me. It looks similar in both modes. So yeah, PS5 Pro, I did check that out as well. And I did not check it out for too long, but it does not seem, again, all the same list of caveats, all the same list of exceptions to this RT stuff apply basically to PS5 Pro. I did not spot any evidence of RT techniques, which is interesting because now this might be an issue common to multiple platforms with this title, obviously. But if you go over to the PS5 version of Dying Light 2, that had RTAO, I believe, in the quality mode on PS5 there. So you'd expect, especially given that the developers talked in an interview last year that I saw, that they want to take advantage of everything the PS5 Pro has to offer. Maybe, you know, a feature like that would be in the offing a little bit later on, but it's not here in this initial release on PS5 or PS5 Pro, unfortunately. So overall, I think this is a really good looking title. It's not tremendously ambitious necessarily because this is shipping. It's not shipping day and date on PS4, Xbox One, whatever. That's coming down, I think, in a couple months here. So it is arriving on those last generation systems in the end. I don't know if they would preserve all the visual features, including the nice GI or whatever, or if it would be stripped back somewhat, but they are shipping it on last generation consoles. But, you know, it's a good looking game. I see a lot of people really commending this game on PC, and I would certainly agree that the game has very good performance as well on consoles. But it is like a cross-generation title. It's not like pushing out the most advanced, like virtualized geometry, virtualized shadow maps, ray tracing, whatever. It's not like pushing out that kind of cauldron of technologies. It's more of a cross-generational title, like a very, very good-looking last-gen title enhanced with better image quality and performance and all that good stuff. But yeah, I was quite pleased with the way that it looks at the moment for sure.
Yeah, there is something to be said about a game that may not be pushing the absolute state of the art in visuals, but just runs really well and looks nice, subjectively looks nice. And I think that's what we're getting here. Yeah, I think we should talk maybe just a bit about why we aren't here on embargo with review coverage. Obviously, the PC side of things, we couldn't really, it wasn't complete. There's key features missing. Ray tracing isn't there, which may well or may not extend to the console versions. On the console side of things, PlayStation 5 code, no problem. Xbox code supplied but didn't work. And it should be working now at launch. And I guess this leads me on to something else which is slightly concerning me, is that it's actually becoming significantly more difficult to cover Xbox. We got a review coming up soon where we still don't have Xbox code. And then we had Dying Light the Beast where, the codes just didn't work. We really do want to support Xbox. But, if we don't have code, that's a problem. And, I'm just thinking about Metal Gear Solid Delta last month, right? We had a PlayStation 5 and PS5 Pro review at embargo because that was the code we were given. We would have loved to have done Xbox at the same time, but we couldn't because we didn't have the code. And actually, that version turned out to be, not solving the PlayStation's problems, but it did seem to mitigate them to a certain extent, which I would have loved to have been there on day one in that particular coverage. As it is, we produced an Xbox video a week later, which had a fraction of the viewership of the video that came before. So the amount of people that know about the Xbox code is significantly less. So I don't know if this is something where Microsoft maybe should step in and help out a bit to actually, ensure that outlets are actually seeing the Xbox versions of the game.
Yeah. The downside there too is that if we're not getting the viewership, if people aren't interested in that kind of Xbox code after the fact, then it might be something we have to consign to like a D After X segment, or we might not even be able to cover it at all in some cases, right? If we aren't getting that code kind of at the same date and time as the PS5 code pre-release.
Yeah. I just want to sort of stress that we really want to talk about the Xbox versions, but it's difficult if we don't have the material available. And it's to the point where, several games, including Metal Gear, actually, we actually bought the Xbox version on day one, simply to be able to get any coverage out of it at all. And it came a week later than PlayStation. It's not what we want to do, but it's where we are at the moment. So hopefully something can be done about that, because it's not great, and it sort of sends the perception that we don't care about Xbox, which is certainly not the case. We really want to have full coverage on embargo, preferably, but that does require code, right?